I sat in the front row of the church, holding my husband's framed picture in my shaking hands. The chairs around me were empty. The candles were burning. The pastor was waiting. The coffin was there, closed and silent. But there was no one else. No son, no daughter, no grandchild, just me. The pastor walked over and whispered, "Mama Grace, should we wait a little longer?" I looked at the big church clock. They were already 30 minutes late. I checked my phone for the 100th time. No messages, no missed calls. The only sound was the slow, sad song the choir sang for a man that nobody came to say goodbye to. "Start," I said, and my voice sounded strange in my own ears. "We cannot wait for people who do not want to come." As the pastor began the funeral, my eyes stayed on the church door. Every small sound made my heart jump. Maybe they would rush in, ashamed, saying, "Sorry, Mom, we are late." But no one came. Later that night, when I got home, my legs heavy and my eyes dry from too many tears, I opened my phone again. That was when I saw it. Bright party lights, music, laughter, my son, with a drink in his hand. My daughters, dancing in shiny clothes. Captions like, "Best night ever," and "Life is for enjoying," posted at the exact time their father's coffin was being lowered into the ground. They did not only skip their father's funeral, they chose parties over his last goodbye. The next morning, I sat at the dining table with my old, brown wool in front of me. The house was quiet. My husband's chair was empty. I put on my reading glasses and slowly flipped to the page where their names were written, each child listed as someone who would inherit what we had worked for all our lives. My hand did not shake this time. I took my pen and drew one straight, dark line through my first son's name. Then the second, then my daughter's, line after line, as if I was cutting a rope that had been choking me for years. And just as my pen crossed the last name, my phone lit up with a new message that made my heart stop for a moment. But before I tell you what that message said, let me tell you how my family reached this point. My name is Grace. People in the neighborhood call me Grandma Grace. I was not always this hard. Once, my house was full of noise, hugs, and the smell of my husband's favorite soup. We were not rich in money, but we were rich in love, or so I thought. I married my husband, Daniel, when I was very young. He was kind, gentle, and always smiling. He worked as a school teacher and loved children, especially ours. We had 3 kids, our first son, Mark, who was smart but stubborn, our second son, Peter, who loved football more than anything, and our last, our baby girl, Emma, who could make anyone laugh. When they were small, they used to run to the door when their father came home, shouting, "Daddy! Daddy!" They would jump on him, and he would spin them around until they giggled so much they could not breathe. I would stand in the kitchen doorway, wiping my hands on my apron, smiling at my little kingdom. Back then, I believed something very strongly. I believed that if you gave your children all your love, all your time, and worked hard for them, they would grow up to love and respect you. That was my simple faith. As they grew older, things started to change. It did not happen all at once. It was slow, like a small leak in a roof that you do not see until the whole ceiling is wet. First, they became busy. "Mom, I cannot come home this weekend. I have plans." "Dad, I will call you later, I am out with friends." Birthdays became text messages. Visits became quick stops. "I cannot stay long, Mom, I am rushing." I told myself, they are young. This is how life is now. My husband would squeeze my hand and say, "Give them time, Grace. They will remember who raised them." Then one day, a more serious sign came. Daniel started feeling tired all the time. He would sit down to rest and fall asleep in the chair. He began to cough, a deep, dry cough that did not go away. When we finally went to the hospital, the doctor looked at us with sad eyes. "Grandma," the young doctor said, using the word everyone used for me, "your husband's heart is weak. He must rest. He must avoid stress. And you must prepare yourself. It may not get better." I felt the ground move, just a little. Not enough to fall, but enough to know something was truly wrong. That evening, I called our children to tell them. I expected worry, panic, offers to come home. Instead, I heard silence, then excuses. Mom, you know work is crazy right now. Can you just keep me updated? I have a trip planned already. Maybe after I return. That night, after I ended the calls, I stood alone in the kitchen, my hands on the sink, listening to my husband's soft breathing from the bedroom. I thought of all the school fees we paid, the birthdays we celebrated, the nights we stayed awake when they were sick. A cold, sharp thought entered my mind for the first time. Maybe my children do not love us the way we love them. I tried to push that thought away. But it grew stronger a few weeks later, on the day that changed everything. It began with a ring of my phone and the words that made my knees almost give way. Grandma Grace, this is the hospital. Your husband has just collapsed. I rushed into the hospital with my scarf still half tied around my head. The smell of medicine and bleach filled my nose as I hurried down the bright hallway. A nurse pointed me to a small room where my husband lay on a bed, pale and weak, his breathing slow and shallow. Daniel, I whispered, holding his hand. His fingers were warm, but only just. He opened his eyes a little and smiled the same gentle smile that once melted my heart. Grace, don't cry, he whispered. But the tears fell anyway. The doctor explained that his heart had given out again and this time, it was worse. He needed to stay in the hospital for close monitoring. I squeezed his hand and nodded, even though my chest felt too tight to breathe. That night, sitting beside his bed, I dialed our children again. My voice was tired, cracked, but steady. Your father collapsed, I said. He is in the hospital. He needs you here. I waited. Mark sighed loudly into the phone. Mom, I'm in the middle of something. This is really bad timing. Peter said, I have a game tomorrow. I can't just cancel everything. Emma whispered, Mom, I already promised to go somewhere. I'll try next week. Next week. The doctor said he might not have next week. In that moment, sitting alone beside my husband, I felt something deep inside me break a little. It was small, but real. A small piece of trust between parent and child cracked. I told my husband, they will come tomorrow. Don't worry. I lied so he would not hurt. Over the next few days, I slept in a chair beside him. I watched nurses come and go. I prayed. I held his hand. And every day, I sent updates to our children. Every day, I hoped they would come through the door. But they never did. On the 5th day, Daniel called me close. His voice was weak but clear. Grace, he said, if anything happens to me, promise me one thing. I swallowed hard. Anything. Live, he whispered. Don't let loneliness swallow you. You were always stronger than you think. I wanted to be brave, but my tears told the truth. I laid my head on his chest, listening to his slow heartbeat. That heartbeat faded 3 days later. The morning he passed, the sky was gray. I held his hand until it grew cold. And when the nurse covered his face with a white cloth, something inside me fell quiet. Not broken, not screaming, just quiet. Grief does that. It becomes a silent room inside your heart. I called our children again. I expected shock. I expected them to break into tears. They all said the same thing. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. Their voices were flat, distracted. Then they all asked the same question. When is the funeral? I told them the date. They all said, okay, I'll see if I can make it. See if I can make it. That night before the funeral, my house was painfully quiet. I set out black clothes for the next morning. I placed a photo of Daniel on the table. I stared at it for long minutes. Then I heard laughter coming from my phone. A new video from Mark popped up on my screen. He was at a bar. Music loud. Drinks everywhere. Caption: Life is too short not to have fun. Peter posted a picture of himself at a football party, holding a trophy. Caption: Tonight we celebrate. Emma posted photos in bright dresses with friends. Caption: Girls' night out. Each post was made within the same hour. The same night before their father's funeral. I held the phone tightly so it would not fall out of my hands. My throat burned, but I still told myself, maybe they will surprise me. Maybe they will wake up early and come. The next morning, I waited at the church door. 1 minute, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, nothing. And now you know how chapter 1 began. After the funeral ended and I sat alone in my quiet house, something became clear to me. My children did not lose their way overnight. They had been drifting far from us for years. I just refused to see it. But the family lesson was sharper than ever. If you give people everything and ask for nothing, they may start believing you deserve nothing. Still, I tried to stay calm as I sat with my husband's will and began crossing out their names. It hurt, but it also felt like finally telling the truth. That was when the message arrived. A single text from Emma. It said, "Mom, you need to hear what happened last night. Please don't do anything until we talk. It's about Dad, and Mark, and Peter, and what we found out." I froze. What could she possibly mean? Before I could type a reply, my doorbell rang loudly. Too loudly, as if someone was hitting it in panic. When I opened the door, what I saw made my heart slam against my ribs. Standing at my front door, I saw all three of my children bundled together on my porch. Their faces were pale. Their eyes were red, not from crying, but from fear. Real fear, the kind I had not seen on them since they were little. Mark stepped forward first, his hands shaking. "Mom, please let us in." I did not move right away. Part of me wanted to close the door and lock it. Another part remembered they were still my children, no matter how far they had drifted. I stepped aside. "Come in." They entered quietly, like strangers unsure of their place. Peter kept wringing his hands. Emma stared at the floor as if she was afraid to meet my eyes. My house, so silent these past days, suddenly felt too full, too tight. When they sat down, no one spoke for a long moment. The ticking clock on the wall became louder, almost echoing. Finally, Emma looked up. "Mom, something happened yesterday. Something we didn't expect. And we need to explain." Explain. The word tasted bitter to me. Mark swallowed hard and started. "Mom, we were all together last night. Partying," I said sharply, unable to stop the words. "Yes. And we are sorry," he whispered. "We shouldn't have gone. We know that now. But something strange happened while we were there." Peter took out his phone and placed it on the table. "Mom, someone recorded a video. A video we were never meant to see." My eyebrows pulled together. "What video?" He hesitated. His fingers hovered over the play button like he was scared of his own device. Just watch." He tapped the screen and turned it toward me. At first, the video showed a bright club with loud music. People dancing, laughing. I saw my children there in the background, smiling and holding drinks. And then the camera shifted to the side, capturing two men at a table. One of them was talking loudly over the music. And then I heard it. "The man died weeks ago." Weeks. They're hiding it. He didn't collapse this week. They lied about the date. Something about the hospital wanting to cover up a mistake. My breath caught. I leaned closer. The man continued talking, laughing like it was a joke. "They messed up his medicine dosage. Gave him too much on the wrong day. Then tried to fix the records. The wife doesn't know. The kids don't know. But the hospital knows exactly what happened." My head started to spin. It felt like the world tilted sideways. Emma touched my arm gently. "Mom, we didn't believe it at first. We thought it was just drunk talk. But then the man mentioned Dad by name." Mark added quickly, "and the hospital. And the date he collapsed. Everything." "Mom," Peter whispered, "they covered up something about Dad's treatment. And someone at that party knew about it." I took the phone slowly, replaying the words in my head. A mistake. A cover-up. My husband, gone because of something preventable. My voice came out low. "Why would someone say this? How would they know?" "We don't know," Emma said. Tears finally rolled down her cheeks. "But we shouldn't have been at that party. If we stayed home, we would never have heard it." Mark leaned forward. "Mom, we failed you at the funeral. We failed Dad. But we're not lying about this video." Peter nodded. "We think someone at the hospital hid something. And we think Dad didn't die the way they told us." I pressed my hand to my chest. My heartbeat thumped strangely, slow then fast, like it was struggling to keep up. My husband trusted that hospital. I trusted that hospital. What if we were wrong too? My eyes moved from child to child. Their fear was real. Their regret was real. But so was the hurt they caused. I stood up slowly, needing space to breathe. "So you came here because of the video?" Emma shook her head. "No, we came because that man in the video disappeared right after he said those things." I stopped moving. What do you mean disappeared? Mark swallowed. We tried to find him after we heard what he said. To ask him questions. But no one at the party remembered seeing him. They said he wasn't even invited. Peter added, and when I asked the DJ about him, he said that man left the club minutes after speaking. Vanished. As if someone warned him. A cold chill ran down my spine. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Before I could process all of this, Emma leaned forward with trembling hands. Mom, that's not all. My stomach tightened. Of course it wasn't. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small folded papers. We found this under our car when we were leaving the party. I unfolded the paper. There were only 4 words written in rough, rushed handwriting. Ask no more questions. Under the message was something even worse. A photo of my husband's hospital bracelet. The one that had been cut off after he died. The one that was supposed to remain at the hospital. My mouth went dry. My vision blurred for a moment. Someone out there was watching. Someone out there knew something. And someone out there did not want us digging deeper. I looked up at my children slowly. Their faces told me they understood the danger too. And just as I opened my mouth to speak, a loud, hard knock slammed against my front door. Not a normal knock. A pounding. A warning. My children froze. My heart twisted painfully. Because I knew. I knew without anyone telling me. Whoever wrote that message. Whoever knew about my husband's death. Whoever didn't want us asking questions. Had followed my children to my house. And now, they were standing right outside my door. The pounding on the door shook the walls, louder this time, harder, like someone trying to break in. I looked at my children, their faces pale, their eyes wide with fear. Mark was standing closest to the door, his fists clenched as if he was ready to protect me, but we both knew we were powerless in this moment. I stepped forward, my heart racing, my hands shaking uncontrollably. There was a dangerous weight in the air, a tension so thick you could feel it in your bones. I didn't open the door. I didn't want to, but I had to. There was no other choice. Mom, Mark whispered urgently, his voice barely audible. Who's out there? Do we call the police? I shook my head, holding my breath. Something in my gut told me the police wouldn't help us here. The message, the photo, the pounding on the door. This was something different. I took a deep breath, hoping my hands weren't shaking too badly. Slowly, I reached for the door handle. Just before I turned it, I glanced back at my children. Stay behind me, I said quietly, though I wasn't sure if I was reassuring them or myself. I opened the door just a crack, peering out into the dim light of the early morning. My heart skipped a beat when I saw who was standing there. It wasn't a stranger. It was a man I recognized, Drive. Roberts, the head physician at the hospital. He stood in front of me, his face impassive but his eyes wild with some unreadable emotion. He was the last person I ever expected to be standing on my doorstep, especially after everything that had happened. Dr. Roberts, I asked, my voice almost lost in the stillness. He glanced over his shoulder quickly before speaking, his voice low, urgent. Grace, we need to talk. Right now. It's about Daniel. About your husband's death. I felt my chest tighten again. My pulse thudded in my ears, and I instinctively stepped back, pulling the door just a little more closed. Why are you here? I asked, my words harsh, distrust clear in my tone. Drive. Roberts hesitated. He looked nervous, his eyes darting from side to side as if he was afraid of being seen. I know what you've seen. The video, the photo, the note. I stiffened. How do you know about all that? He ignored my question, his hands shaking as he ran them through his disheveled hair. There's a lot you don't understand. A lot you haven't been told. I need you to listen to me, Grace. They're watching you. They've been watching you and your children. I shouldn't be here. I could be putting my own life in danger by talking to you. I glanced at my children. They were standing in the background, their faces tight with fear, but they weren't moving. They were waiting for me to decide what to do. You can't just stand there and say things like that and expect me to believe you, I said. I wasn't sure if I was speaking to him or to myself. Doctor. Robert stepped closer, his voice growing more desperate. It's true. I tried to warn you before, but they have people everywhere. People in the hospital. People in the police force. People you wouldn't expect. They didn't just cover up Daniel's death. They planned it. The words hit me like a slap. My knees nearly buckled. What do you mean, planned? He nodded grimly. Your husband was part of something bigger. Something dangerous. It wasn't just a mistake, Grace. It was intentional. They needed him gone, and they used the hospital to make it happen. My vision blurred. My head spun as I tried to process what he was saying. This couldn't be true. It couldn't be. Why? I choked out, fighting the rising panic in my chest. Why would anyone want him dead? Why would they? Doctor. Roberts grabbed my wrist, his grip firm and urgent. Because your husband found something. Something he shouldn't have. Something that, if it gets out, could destroy everything. It's all connected, Grace. The hospital, the government, corporate interests. Your husband was getting too close. That's why they had to silence him. I could hardly breathe. My mind was spinning. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of confusion, unable to catch my breath or even comprehend what he was telling me. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could, Mark's voice cut through the silence. Mom, this is insane. You can't trust him. He's part of it, isn't he? He works at the hospital. I looked at my son, my heart aching as I saw the fear in his eyes. Doctor. Robert stepped back, raising his hands in a gesture of surrender. I know you don't trust me, Mark, and I wouldn't expect you to. But I have information you won't get anywhere else. I'm trying to help you. All of you. You have to believe me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Tell me everything, I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. Tell me why Daniel had to die. Tell me who did this. Doctor. Roberts hesitated, then nodded slowly. I'll tell you everything, but you have to be ready. Because once you know, there's no turning back. I nodded, the weight of his words settling heavily on my shoulders. And just as he began to speak, I heard a sound. A soft, steady knock. But this time, it wasn't coming from the door. It was coming from the back window. And when I turned to look, my blood ran cold. There, standing in the shadows, was someone I never thought I would see again. Someone who had been missing for years. My heart stopped. It was Daniel, or at least, it looked like him. I stood frozen, unable to move or speak. The figure outside the window didn't step into the light. They just stood there, watching us, their face hidden in the darkness. But the outline, the posture, it was unmistakable. The man outside looked just like my husband, Daniel. I swallowed hard, trying to convince myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me. Maybe it was the stress, the shock, the endless nights of grief. But deep down, something told me this was no illusion. Mom. Mark's voice trembled. Is that Dad? I couldn't answer. My breath was caught in my throat, my mind racing, scrambling to make sense of everything that had happened in the past few days. The video, the message, the strange, cryptic words from Dr. Roberts. Grace, drive. Roberts said softly, his voice shaky. You have to be careful. That man, whoever he is, he's not who you think he is. I felt a cold chill run through my spine. It was impossible. It couldn't be Daniel. He was dead. I had seen it with my own eyes. His body, his funeral, the final goodbye. And yet, there he was, standing at the window, as if waiting for me to make the next move. Mom, Emma whispered, her voice breaking. We need to leave. This is too much. Please, let's go. We don't know who that is. I nodded slowly, my legs unsteady as I backed away from the window. My mind was spinning, my heart thumping so loudly it drowned out everything else. I glanced at my children. Fear was written on their faces. They didn't know what to believe anymore. Grace, listen to me, drive. Roberts urged, stepping closer. I've told you the truth. Your husband's death wasn't an accident. And whoever that is outside your window isn't Daniel. It's someone, or something, connected to all this. The hospital, the cover-up, they've been manipulating you, controlling everything around you. I looked at him, my mind still struggling to catch up with his words. What are you saying? Are you saying my husband is still alive? That he faked his death? Doctor. Roberts shook his head quickly. No, your husband is gone. But the people behind this, they've created a perfect illusion. They've used his identity, his death, to keep you all in the dark. What you saw, Grace, wasn't him. It was someone who looks like him. Someone they've planted to scare you, to keep you quiet. I felt my knees buckle. This wasn't possible. None of it was. My head was spinning, a mix of confusion and terror drowning out every rational thought. I turned back to the window. The figure was still there, standing motionless. And then, slowly, it began to step into the dim light. My breath caught in my throat, my heart hammering in my chest. As the figure moved closer, I could make out the details. The face was familiar, but something was wrong. It wasn't Daniel's eyes. It wasn't his expression. It was empty, like a mask. I took a step back. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" The figure didn't answer. They just stood there, staring at me with hollow eyes, as if waiting for something. I glanced at Drive Roberts, but he was shaking his head, his eyes wide with fear. "Grace, you have to get out of here. Now. This is bigger than you think. They know you're getting too close to the truth. They're going to silence you if you don't leave." And just like that, everything inside me shifted. The shock, the grief, the confusion, it all disappeared in an instant. I realized, for the first time, that I wasn't just mourning the loss of my husband. I was trapped in a web of lies, in a world where nothing was as it seemed. I looked at my children, my heart aching with the weight of everything we had lost. But there was no time to explain. No time to make sense of it all. "We have to go," I said, my voice suddenly clear and firm. "We leave now, and we don't look back. This is bigger than us. This is about our survival." We moved quickly, all of us hurrying out of the house, leaving behind the mystery, the danger, and the shadows that seemed to follow us at every step. As we stepped into the car, I looked back one last time at the house. The figure was still standing at the window, watching us leave. But this time, I didn't feel the fear. I felt something else, anger. They had taken so much from me. My husband, my trust, my family's peace. But they would not take my life. Not without a fight. As I drove away, my children silent in the backseat, I realized something. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be many more questions. Many more dangers. But one thing was certain, I would no longer be the one in the dark. I would fight for the truth, no matter what it cost me. And as the miles stretched between me and the house that once held my family's memories, I made a vow to myself and to my children. The story was far from over. This was only the beginning.